Here, our term of history is so much shorter, so we need to embrace it much more so because the term is so short. The things that we have in this community that are important, we need to really stand up for and fight for.
Now, this is something that I'm dealing with on the city council, so I'm kind of curious as to your view of that. Do you feel it is more part of the city government, or any government for that matter, to support the history of, or is this more of the community role to support the history of the city?
Unfortunately, city government doesn't have the resources to support every organization out there that would
that is worth supporting?
That one is worth supporting. Two, more importantly, would really be important to support. You just don't have the resources to do that. Ultimately, it's incumbent upon all of us as individuals to work together to provide the support for those community-based organizations that reflect our history and reflect our heritage. Whether it be support for Rotary Gardens, Rotary Botanical Gardens, or support for the Tallman House, or support for any of our other institutions that we have in this community. Ultimately, it's a community thing. We, I think, have tended too much to rely on local government to be the source of financial support for these organizations.
How do you feel, I guess shifting gears a little bit, because you're also president of the board of directors of Forward Janesville.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel Janesville should deal with the economic difficulties and challenges that we're facing now? Because I keep hearing a lot of good things about 2010,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do between now and then?
Well, I think behind the scenes there has been a lot of very important things going on in this community to help offset the negative impacts of the changing of the guard, as it were, with the manufacturing sector here locally. In the immediate, we're working very hard in collaboration with the Department of Workforce Development from the state of Wisconsin, the Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board, and others to ensure that those individuals who are most immediately impacted by the closures of the variety of different manufacturing interests in this community have their individual needs addressed, whether it be job retraining or opportunities to assist them in this transition to a different age in Janesville. We're very fortunate because we've had a long, solid track run of diversifying our economy. If you were to turn the clock back 15 years, you would see a community that was much more reliant on the automotive manufacturing sector than you see the community today. I think the numbers are something to the effect of about 7% of the jobs
versus
in this
like
region versus 20% of the jobs 15 years ago.
Right.
That diversity is going to provide a cushion that this community needs. We will make the transition. Already we're looking forward to new businesses coming into the community. We've had several announcements of new businesses and restructuring of existing businesses that are always a positive step forward. And collectively we will be working toward ensuring that we'll get through this bump in the road. It's a big bump, but you know what? It's but a bump in the road.
But the question that I have is, if a lot of the problem is the confidence, whether it's a consumer confidence, business confidence, and how do you build that confidence while still providing accurate information? How do you not sugarcoat things but are still looking positively at things?
I think there's multiple ways you can view life in general. I tend to be an individual that views life from the perspective that, this glass is nearly full, as opposed to this glass is
Full of ice.
full of ice and about empty.
Okay.
There's huge opportunities out there. I look at the history, again, going back to the history of this community. This community has an enormous history of mom and pop operations getting created in basements and garages and seeing those businesses grow into thriving business concerns. Lab safety is a classic example of a small cottage business that's in the garage of the Hedberg family and has grown into the conglomerate that it is as part of W.W. Granger. There's numerous examples of people that have taken ideas, concepts with the right nurturing and the right support and have been able to develop businesses that frankly are thriving today in this community.
So you're kind of looking at it from the perspective that we want to provide opportunity as much as possible because there will be people who will take advantage of that opportunity.
I look at the people from...
And that's what America is all about.
That's what America's all about. I look at the people from Gilman who, as an engineering, robotics and logistics firm, saw their business closed and decided, you know, we can stay in this business on a different scale. And they've opened their own robotics, logistics, and manufacturing development business here in Janesville. They took what many people would view as adversity and embraced it as opportunity. And from that concept of opportunity are able to move forward with something that's going to be a viable concern for this community. It's all in how you view the glass. Is it half full or is it half empty?
I'd like to raise my glass to that. Rich, thank you so much for joining us here today.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, thank you for joining us here on Discover Janesville.
It's a pleasure being here.
Appreciate it. Now, you were the superintendent of the Janesville School District immediately prior to Tom Everett.
Yes.
And I'm curious, what makes one want to become a superintendent?
Well, that's a very good question. I was always interested in education. I can recall when I was in the 10th grade, when a teacher asked the class, you know, what do you think you want to be? And I always admired teaching, good teachers, and so I began my career as a teacher. And then I thought, well, maybe there are other ways also, you know, to make an impact. So shifting from working with students to working primarily with adults was a challenge and something I enjoyed doing.
Shifting to adults in terms of education?
Well, working with teachers and administrators.
And then shifting to the administration.
Yeah,
I see.
From the classroom into administration.
How does one go about becoming, did you need to get a special degree in something or other that?
Yes, most administrators take a degree in some sort of a degree in education, and in my case, I took a master's degree in school administration, elementary school administration.
Okay.
And then I had an opportunity to go to school at the University of North Dakota for a year on a government program. So I spent a whole year there.
They have schools in North Dakota. That's very encouraging.
Yeah, University of North Dakota,
okay.
Harvard of the Great Plains.
That's right. Okay.
And anyway, I did take a master's degree in counseling and guidance, and I thought it was very helpful because I learned some listening skills there. I think you learn to be a better listener and to hear people out. So that was always, I always drew back on that. I don't think I was ever accused of not listening. And then I took a doctorate in secondary education. So that's kind of the path I took.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So what happens to superintendents when they're done?
Well, they're an interesting group. They're very individualistic. They're one of a kind wherever they happen to be because there's only one of them. So you have a collegial relationship and you get to know some of these people. They have a variety of interests. In my particular case, after I finished the superintendency here and retired, I thought, well, I'll find something else to do and something new and different. So I ended up with a state association. I started half-time with the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials, and those are the people that are on the non-instructional side.
I see. It's like if there's two people of anything, there's association, and there's a third person publishing a magazine for them.
Oh, sure, and put on conferences, conventions, seminars, and they asked me to try to grow the association. And when I began, we had something like 220 or something. It's over 700 now. And I hadn't planned on doing it as long as I did. I did it for 11 years. Commuting to Madison went from part-time to full-time. And
why did you stay in Janesville after you retired?
well, we enjoy Janesville. It's a fine community. We've lived here since 1960.